It's about setting them up with learning experiences that helps them build the skills and knowledge in order to be able to do that if needed, which they may not ever need ever in their whole life, depending on what their future holds for them. Like how many of us sit around writing 5-paragraph essays? But you know how many I had to write coming out through school?
Yeah.
Good grief.
But you still use all those writing standards every single day, organizing your thoughts, revising your work, right? Producing some kind of content, whether it's email, social media, videos, audio, whatever. You use all that stuff. The 5-paragraph
not anymore.
essays.
I use ChatGPT.
There you go. Welcome to Learning Out Loud, where we get curious about all things teaching and learning. I'm Stefan, a regional technology coach, here with Andy, a regional math coordinator, and Carrie, a regional science coordinator. We're just 3 educators on a mission to dig into what works, what doesn't, and what we're still figuring out. This podcast is for teachers, coaches, and leaders who want to grow in their professional practice. We don't have all the answers, but we're asking the questions and recording the process. Let's go to work. And actually on the video version of this, you can't even see my shared screen. So
okay.
You're going to have to describe what you're looking at here. Let me give you a little bit of background. I have pulled, it's like 5 or 6 of these, I think. I've done these. Actually, I could August, October, November, December, January. 5 times I've been out with this district. And they saw me do some stuff at our leadership summit in August around AI and said, we want you to come work with our teachers on a monthly, like, could you come out and do like a kickoff thing for half a day, all day, maybe in August, all day in August, and then once a month for the rest of the year for their like early releases on Mondays. And as a part of the kickoff, I gave them just a Mentimeter, like a polling thing, and asked them a couple questions. So I asked them essentially like how much of you used AI, and you know what does success look like for you this year? It's just some talking points. But one of the things I asked them was, what is the first thing that comes to the top of your mind when you think about AI in education? So what is the first thing that comes to the top of your mind when you think about AI in education? And they submitted it through this tool, and it creates a word cloud. So, Andy, describe how a word cloud works.
Okay, my understanding of a word cloud is that the participants type in 1 or 2, sometimes 3 different words or phrases, and then the data is collected, and the number of times that word is mentioned is represented by the larger font in your visualization of the word. So I see, I'm just guessing here, 20 or so words, some of them in different colors, some with very similar size font. And then there are different, like about a handful that are definitely larger than the ones around there.
Yeah, nailed it. So the larger the word or phrase and closer to the center, the more frequently it was used. So Carrie, describe what you're seeing here. Like, what do you notice about this word cloud?
All right. So in this word cloud, the central and largest word, so the word that was submitted the most often, was cheating. And then surrounded by that are 2 words that have similar font size, but also, right next to that cheating in the center is exciting and scary. And then the remaining words in the word cloud are all about the same font size and scattered around the outside of the cloud. Some of them being even farther out from the center.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Skynet was your example, right?
It was not, actually.
Really?
I didn't put anything in there because they submit 3 words on this one, and then it brings it in there. Skynet was all them.
Did you prime the pump for those that don't know Skynet? We're just going to let you search that one on your own. But
I'll show you my slides. This is a similar thing that I do that I did with them.
Carrie, do you know about Skynet?
Oh, really? It's Terminator.
Terminator. Have you seen that Terminator movies?
Yeah, like the ones from the 80s or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
Terminator
I've seen
1 and 2 are the ones that you need to watch. You don't know what Skynet is?
Okay, now
No.
let's be nice, Stefan.
Well,
Come
I
on.
watched them like in the
Okay.
80s.
Yeah, in the 80s.
It's been a while.
Skynet is the why behind there's a war, because
Yeah.
of this idea that computers are now functioning on their own and causing wars to exterminate humans, basically.
Yeah.
That's
So in this word cloud, when they put Skynet, they're like sci-fi. It's like
sci-fi,
another
like-
word for sci-fi.
Well, and actually a little bit more than that too. And that's a good. So what I'm showing you here, and we can talk about this a little bit later if it comes up. But what I've pulled up here is if you just Google hype cycle for artificial intelligence, you'll find this. This is an updated one on the bottom. So it's actually, Andy, regional math coach, describe the graph that we're looking at here.
Wow. Okay. So we have some X and Y's, kind of up the right side says expectations. Up on the Y, if you want to put that like an axis vertically, and horizontally, it looks like there's sections that say innovation trigger, peak of inflated expectations, the trough of is that disillusionment?
Trough of disillusionment. Yep.
Yep. I can make it wider here. Sorry, that's my bad. Slope of enlightenment and plateau of productivity.
Yeah. So I always put this in front of teachers to talk about like AI adoption, but I also, and then it's got that line, right? It's not really a bell curve, but I mean, what would you call that? What's that shape?
Not a bell curve. It would be like there's a apex, but then a similar, like almost a wave-like.
Oh, there you
right?
go.
Would you say like kind of a wave-like crest and trough of different heights, different labels along the wave as you increase, and then you come back down the backside.
Yeah, and so again, if you just Google hype cycle for AI, you'll find this. But expectations kind of low here on the innovation trigger, and then peak of inflated expectations, as you would expect, very, very high up there on your y-axis. And so I bring this up because I used to put like a little picture of Arnold Schwarzenegger as the Terminator down here by innovation trigger as a joke. It never went over well. Whether or not people were legitimately worried, notice it's on here in Skynet. Or just it wasn't funny, and like shocker, I'm not as funny as I think I am. So this is I used to put that on there again, kind of as a joke, but also to ease some tension, because people are typically, when you talk about AI, they're like, "Oh my gosh," and there's some fear around it, which is kind of what we see in this word cloud. You start off with, you've got that academic integrity fear, and then as you move out, you move away from schools a little bit, right? So some of those words, scary, shortcut. Inevitable, I thought was interesting.
Yeah, I like that one.
On the left-hand side of this, right? I think at the top, illiteracy, which I think is interesting, but then job loss and Skynet as you get farther out. And so fewer people saying that, but definitely worries on people's brains. And so where I start off with people when we're talking about AI is this disillusionment, or not disillusionment, that's the opposite, demystifying around AI of like, we're not talking about what people in AI will call AGI, artificial general intelligence, which is what you think of when you think of like Skynet, the Terminator. It's like AI that's really good at a lot of things and can essentially function like a human being. We're talking about artificial specific intelligence. It can do one very, very specific thing, right? So this was the word cloud that I gave them first. This is the word cloud they made first. I went back again in October and asked them the same question. Do a real quick notice and wonder. And if you want me to flip back to the other one to compare, what are some of the similarities and differences you're seeing on this new word cloud?
Well, I noticed our central word has changed from cheating to plagiarism, although cheating is right there, in the center, just a little bit smaller font. So I guess the ideas have shifted from cheating to plagiarism, which I would argue might be the same.
Yeah, probably synonyms.
Yeah. And they're like, cheating was the largest single word in that original cloud. And now we have 3 words in the center that are the same font size. Plagiarism at the center, and then surrounded by helpful and useful, which, feels more positive than maybe the first word cloud, central words.
So this, again, I mean, I was with them for an entire day in August and then didn't see them in September, came back in October and had given them some kind of interim work to be working with. So this was just in terms of a data point, kind of nice that they had put more things in here around like applicable uses, lesson planning, ELL reachable, which I think was interesting. Shortcuts, tools. We went over SAMR quite a bit with them, substitution, augmentation, modification, redefinition. And something that I hit really heavily is that like AI is not going to take your job. Someone who knows how to use AI will take your job. And if you can think about how to leverage this tool appropriately, it can push us farther. But we need to be careful about all those things, right? So, but yeah, plagiarism, cheating, still very, very centralized there. This is November. So notice and wonder. And describe for people who can't see.
So is that a month later, did you say, give or take?
Mm-hmm. Almost exactly a month.
It looks like cheating is much larger, I would agree. I would say, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm noticing the ideas about like idea generating or innovated. That seems new to me. Did you notice that, Carrie, that idea?
I saw innovation in the last word cloud, I think. I don't think I've seen idea generating yet.
Yeah.
So that's new. I would say, I mean, we still see helpful and useful as kind of top contenders for words that pop into people's heads around AI. But you're right, we have like more words to describe how they feel about it than we, especially in that very first cloud. So they're coming up with other new ideas around AI, maybe.
So then this was December. Andy, why'd you say,
I said, because now it's helpful is in the middle. Similar, a little bit larger, but cheating is now off to the side, but lower font, I would imagine. So it's not as, it wasn't typed as frequent for the prompt, right? It was efficient. That seems newer, closer to the center. Plagiarism is off to the side a little bit with very smaller font. I'm just scanning to see if educate, that seems like a newer one. I'm not sure what that's on the right hand side. Intellectual theft, that's interesting.
We saw
that in the last one, I think, too.
Yeah, blocked, maybe they can't have access to that idea or the use of it. I'm not sure. So different words, definitely, for sure. At least that I'm noticing.
We went from job loss to future jobs, because job loss was shown up in one of the clouds.
Oh yeah, where is that?
And now we have future jobs listed in this cloud.
I didn't even notice that. Oh yeah, nice. Over here on the left-hand side, future jobs. Ooh, good catch. And
15 then, points to Carrie.
I noticed. I wondered.
This was January, so last time we were there. And again, notice like helpful, largest in the middle, cheating right down below it, but like almost as big as helpful is tool. I'm not sure if they were calling me a tool or just recognizing this was a tool. But we kind of had this moment in December where it was just this organic, like you see that shift from like their principal. I mean, we just spent, 15, 20 minutes, whatever, talking about the power of having administration in the room while you do PD. Credit to this high school. Their principal and their AP have been there every single time, engaging the whole time. And he pointed out, the principal said, we went from cheating, large and pink in the center there, for the last 3-4 months, and now it's helpful in the middle. And so we could actually see this growth of just like these hour-long sessions monthly, and then the work that they're putting in there to be able to see that shift, which was kind of cool. And it made me think about weirdly like the 100-point grade scale. And I like off the cuff asked them, like, why do you think, like I was like reflecting on like when I went out there in January and I knew I was going to ask this question again, I was kind of interested to see if we like had a little bit of backslide, especially after winter break. And now kids have been back for a week. We didn't, obviously, but it had me thinking about the 100-point grade scale that because one of the things I considered doing at the beginning of the year was just having them answer literally the same question on the same slide. And so the word cloud gets bigger and bigger and bigger. But if we look at the submissions for all these previous months, the first 3-4 months, cheating, plagiarism, would be so heavily front loaded that we wouldn't have seen the shift, because you would have had to so disproportionately be putting in things that were like helpful, tool, efficiency, future jobs, that all of that would have just gotten lost and outweighed with all of this stuff that we used to think, and now we've shifted. And so I kind of off the cuff was like, why does that make me think of the 100-point grade scale? And like did a little thing on like equitable grading, because, you know, if you're averaging kids' grades over the course of the year, then you don't really get to see their growth. You just see an average of where they've been all year. That one didn't land super well because I kind of like ad hoc'd it, but I think this was an interesting thing to look at, because it's the closest thing I have to data to a school system's mindset shift. The more you immerse yourself in the work, like they're not nearly as worried about this. Like, notice nobody on here, this most recent one, didn't put anything about Scary or Skynet or Terminator. This overwhelmed piece here might be because I've thrown a lot of tools at them. But this is a lot more positive and future focused. And then if we take this and we compare it to the responses we got for the district that we're going to go out to in about a month.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, let me ask you. So this is the Google sheet from the feedback form you got for a district that we're going to go out and do. I'm essentially going to do with them in February what I did with this other district in August. Just take that half-day training and start some of that demystifying portion without, going through every single response here. But how would you compare what they're saying here on this form to where the other district was back in August?
Can we take a moment here to look at it? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, definitely the question, when I think of AI in schools, the first thing that comes to mind, I see cheating in many of the responses, cheating and plagiarism. So if we were to do a word cloud, I wouldn't be surprised if that cheating showed up in the middle, in the center, and larger. I appreciated the question, like it's response, it's row 4 on, or no, sorry, row 3. Like what comes to mind? A lot of questions. They just put questions. Is it ethical? Yeah. Is it really actually learning? Yeah. Like I feel like that's where I am a little bit. It's just questioning.
Yeah.
I don't think I have a lot of fear. It's more like, well, what does this look like? What do I need to be thinking, or how do I need to be thinking differently? Because AI is here.
Yeah. Well, and that's the right question, right? Like, how do I need to be thinking differently because kids have access to these tools? And I think the whole purpose of that demystification process is that's not our knee-jerk reaction. I remember, story I tell all the time, when ChatGPT was released, like November 2021, really hit the public consciousness in like December 2022 over winter break for teachers. And that my first day back after winter break was in a district up north, and they do like a PD day before the students come. So I'm there on that Monday after winter break, and I hopped on a Zoom meeting with my other ed tech counterparts, and they were like, have you guys seen ChatGPT? This is going to blow everything up. Like, this is crazy. What do we do? And we're all like, we don't know. But then I got off that call early because I had a bunch of English teachers coming into my room for professional development. And they're like, I was like, I don't know. Like, we're talking about how to support multilingual learners. And like, this looks very, very different now. And we haven't had the time to wrap our heads around it. But there's fear in the room first every single time, because they're worried about this question, which this person asked: is there actual learning by using AI? And that's the answer to that question is it depends. Like, it depends. There's always someone in the room who asks it to respond to one of their essay prompts that they give students, and they're never impressed with the answers. And so I say, well, what would you give that essay? They said D, maybe a C. And we say, how many of your kids are going to be okay with that? Like, you can't tell students this puts out C and D work, you can't use it, because some of my kids are going, I'm failing your class. C or D work is a godsend. Like, who cares? You know?
It's passing.
Yeah.
I took, here's what I did. I took the info from that sheet and just copied and pasted it randomly into Chat GPT, and look, the top 3 I put in the chat. I asked here's my prompt. Let me tell you the prompt first. What themes can you find in the following information? And I just cut all that in there. And even Chat GPT is talking about the ethical concerns in AI in education. It's like that's what it said. But creativity's there. You know, this is the whole survey too, not just in AI. But I do feel like this feels like your first chunk of slides, I guess, for lack of a better term, your word clouds still, right? They're early thinkers about this topic. I think we could.
So here's my question, and let's read it off for posterity. You said the themes in the provided information can be categorized into the following areas: engagement and creativity in education, ethical concerns and AI in education, critical thinking and data interpretation, curriculum and instructional tools, community and collaborative learning, future-oriented teaching.
Mm-hmm.
You guys are math science, and you know what ChatGPT can do. What types of shifts in teaching or professional development would you encourage teachers to engage in, knowing what this tool can do?
Carrie first.
Then Stefan has to ask the question again, because my dog just ran in here and was like ripping apart this package, and I was completely distracted because I was like, we're recording, get out. So I apologize. I think okay. I get to do this because I didn't
well, I can ask it again because I'm not sure how clean of a question it was.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's essentially what changes in teaching practices, what shifts in teaching practices should teachers engage in, knowing that they have access to ChatGPT and students do as well, and other AI tools?
I'm going to start, if that's okay. My first knee jerk when you ask that question is as a teacher. Okay, I'm taking myself as an instructional coach right now, but as a teacher, I feel it's going to help me with some time issues throughout either my day or my weekend or my understanding or whatever in my day-to-day teaching world. I have to think about more like the specifics on that one. In the idea of like taking a lesson or tweaking an idea, like you mentioned already, write a science lesson about a topic. I think that's a little bit input output. Like how do you direct that to be more helpful? But yeah, like I moved to a region, I want to incorporate something in my local community. Here's a thing that's interesting in our area. Here's a job writing, like making those connections, and then see what ideas it could pop up for me to then go forward. That would be my first, as a teacher, lens. Somehow getting time would be helpful. It'd help me with my time. How about you, Carrie? What's one of the things that you're thinking about?
I guess thinking again, I'll tag what Andy said. If I think about it from back in the classroom, I'm a teacher in the classroom rather than an instructional coach trying to figure out how to support teachers with all of this. I think the first things I would do is kind of grapple with trying to better understand the capabilities of AI so that I could redesign things that I wanted students to learn so that AI wouldn't do all of the thinking for them. Like they would still have to engage in whatever it is that I'm asking them to do and like have to learn. You know what I mean? Like they couldn't just put it in Chat GPT and be done. Like that there was going to have to be something in my lesson design or, product design or whatever it is, so that kids still had to think. They could use AI. They could go out there and use it, pop something in and turn something into me. But there'd still have to be some critical thinking, some problem solving, something.
Yeah, and that on the other side too, as an instructional coach,
Mm-hmm.
I'm learning how to train my Chat GPT AI account. I don't know if that's the right language. Stefan, please correct me and make fun of me later. But because we're doing a conference sessions, we're doing conference proposals, and there's 136 of them. So I can train my AI to then read the proposals around this rubric that we have. So it's a first lens. It gets that initial, and then I dive deeper. So it almost feels like I'm taking more time around the right areas that I should be thinking about, I guess. And I see Stefan has brought up a visual that I'm super curious about now that has a big circle with crosshairs in the down the center, and productivity on the bottom on the left, with a creativity on the top and a large arrow, and then individually and organizational on the bottom. So what do you have here? What is it? Where are the connect? Or what do you think, Stefan? How would it look for you? Do you have an idea about your own question?
Yeah. So let's dig into that, because what I do with teachers when we go through this AI stuff is we start with that demystification. What is it? And then we really focus on the teaching and learning, which is what you guys are talking about, right? Like, and Carrie, specifically, you said I would be using it to help me design lessons where kids, it's not only okay if they use ChatGPT, maybe they have to, or they have to use AI tools. What that does in my mind is it really puts a premium on teachers knowing the intended learning objectives, the intended outcomes, being very, 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 very deep into their standards. This is something that I show to teachers. You got those 4 quadrants. And if you think of that bottom left as your own, using AI tools for your own personal productivity, efficiency, great place to start. That's why the red X is there, right? Like, how can I use this to save me time? Because teachers don't have a lot of time. And then how can I use this, moving up the quadrant here, but still on the left-hand side, for my own creativity, which is, Carrie, what you were talking about, right? Like, how can I use this to give my kids more authentic learning experiences? Andy, you said that as well. Like, I'm in this new area and I need to make connections. That is such a heavy lift, especially when you're talking about the diversity of learners in your classroom. How can I use this tool to make me more creative, to meet the needs of my individual learners? And then this one, as you move to the right side of this quadrant, it's still individual, or it's still productivity and creativity, but start talking about organizations. So Andy, I think you hit on that a little bit with the organizational productivity, reviewing submissions for like a conference, like presentation, and you said something really important. It's not replacing my work. It's now just a part of my work, right? Still focusing on that humanism piece there. And so like this can really help. And especially if we can like encourage students to engage in this type of thinking as well. And that's the other big shift in my mind, is that tools like this put a premium on doing learning with students and not at them, involving them in the learning process and making sure they understand and internalize the importance of the learning process, not just the product in front of them. Andy, what do you thinking?
Well, thank you for saying that last little bit, because when you described our ideas of how we would use it, I never would think like I was cheating myself or cheating something, right? If I said, hey, help me out with this like getting a lesson, like, you know what I mean? Designing a lesson plan that meets the needs of my kids in my region. That doesn't feel like I'm taking away or cheating or plagiarizing or using a tool that helps me get through submissions that I read, and then I can then, like, doesn't seem like a cheat thing. So that's where I always want to ask the teachers, like, plagiarizing, cheating. So then they have one view of it. Then it's like photocopying, or it's like reading and like the old school of I'm just going to type in what this quote says and submit it. Like that's plagiarizing and cheating in our world. Are we redefining what that looks like now? Because that doesn't seem like cheating if it's helping me with, connecting with a specific thing that's out there in the internet about, field mice in my region, right? I'm not going to go to But anyway, so
Don't you think when we see cheating in the responses in this feedback form or in the word clouds, teachers aren't talking about themselves when they use AI to build a lesson plan? I don't think cheating shows up around how they use AI. I think the cheating is they're worried about students. Like specifically, Stefan in row 7, that long response there, the Pandora's box response, where the teacher says middle schooler and high schoolers are going to use the path of least resistance. As are most adults, they did put that little caveat in there. And they feel like students are just I have to write a 5-paragraph essay about, I'll use Andy's example, field mice for my science class or whatever, and then turn that in. I think that's where we see cheating. I don't think they're thinking individually when we see it in the word cloud.
And is that what we're trying to get at? Is that cheating?
This, yes. And I think the distinction there, like if you take this, what Carrie just described is you take this and you use it to replace the entire process. It's not cheating in the sense that it's plagiarism necessarily. And there's some arguments in that as well in terms of where the data is sourced and all that stuff. I'm not super interested in that conversation right now because I'm not knowledgeable about it. I would say it's cheating. And the distinction there is you're cheating yourself out of the learning, right? The reason teachers give, let's keep using the essay example because it's easy. The reason teachers give essays is because, one, we've done it forever. And for a long time, it was the best way to meet all of those writing standards. Organize your thoughts, revise your work, produce content, right? And then it's not easy, but it's simple to grade. It's very laid out, right? And if you have a student who can just substitute all of that work and just remove themselves from that process, yes, they've gotten nothing out of it. I would also argue you are meeting about 1/3 of your learners with those essays. And there's ways we could have been doing this better before ChatGPT. And now it's never been easier. So in that sense, yes, kids still need to write. Kids still need to write essays. We shouldn't take that out of the process altogether. But everything I keep hearing about as of it's January 17th, 2025, with the new ELA standards in Washington, that they're going to prioritize multimodal text, not just like interpreting and consumption, but production. And so like you can meet your writing standards by recording a YouTube video. By doing this, we are meeting every ELA standard right now by revising, by organizing our thoughts, by building on each other's stuff. Kids can be doing this, but think of all the preparation that what we're doing right now took. And it's not just like, we spent 15 minutes of me pulling together resources, but it's a synthesis of our professional experience, of our relationships together around like what knowing each other's strengths. There's speaking and listening standards all over that. And that's much more sustainable. And no one's asking us to do this. It's fun. It's fun. And so that's an engaging quality, right? Yeah. And so when I think about that, I went and I pulled up this. This is an activity I did with a district. Because they asked specifically as I was doing my AI stuff, can you do like a writing example or something that could be like translated into the classroom? And so what I did was I took one of my old rubrics from when I was in the classroom. So for better or for worse, this was when my kids wrote essays for expository writing. These were the instructions for their like performance task at the end of the unit. And this was the rubric that we gave them. Right? So standard rubric, you've got your categories, ideas, structure, use of language, and then exemplary, proficient, emerging, and complete. We've got points attached to these little criteria under there. I downloaded this as a PDF, put it into ChatGPT, and said, give me, I think I have like 9, give me 9 sample pieces of writing, spread them apart on the different elements of the rubric. That way I've got like 3 from proficient and 2 from exemplary, whatever. Put them in the style of a 7th grader's writing, because that was for 7th grade ELA, and make them similar in length, because that's the issue we always run into is those basic ones are always just like 2 sentences, right? And then so then it spit all of those out. There was one little iteration that I had to do because it did give me super short ones for the basic ones. So all I did was say, these are too short, make them longer. Then I copied and pasted them and put them on these slides. And I gave these slides to teachers. And I said, your job is essentially to grade these. Rearrange these slides under exemplary, proficient, and like label each of these. And then discuss. because the power there is justification. It's not, can you write this? It's, can you identify high quality writing and justify it to your peers? That is something that I did in my classroom, but took forever to set up, because you're finding exemplary stuff, you're writing them yourself, and that sucks. This activity took me 10 minutes to put together and could take 2 or 3 class periods if your classes were like an hour long at secondary or something, because the content is so rich. First, kids have to like understand the rubric, and then they have to examine all of these things. You could be putting them in groups. And the beauty of this is you can print it off and do it all offline, right? This is a teacher using AI to make learning more meaningful and applicable for students and universally accessible, right? Without robbing, like, what did I lose in this process? I didn't write the paragraphs. Those writing standards aren't for me, right? And kids are still going to write, and they still have these exemplars, and there's no learning loss. If anything, there's learning's deeper.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. This is an example that I think that might help with that cheating idea, right? Like, no, this is a positive that would help. This is helpful. This is what you could do. Connections toward other content.
In science, we do a lot of writing. And I did activities similar to this back in the day of the old lab report. Hopefully we're not writing lab reports out there still, but when students got to writing their conclusion, where they're having to state a claim, they're trying to use evidence from their investigation, and then, using their reasoning, and I would get terrible stuff. So I would write my own, this was pre-ChatGPT, example conclusions. And then as a class, we would look at these example ones, and we would talk about, what makes this a good conclusion? What are they missing? What's here? And sometimes I would use student work as well without their names on it. Obviously, I would put, it was usually a different class period, so people wouldn't see their own work up there underneath the document camera. Back in document camera days too. Here we go. At least I wasn't overhead projector days. I'm not that old, but
ouch.
Yeah. I learned with overhead projectors, but I never had to use one in the classroom.
You never experienced the rainbow of flavors up and down your arm of all the Vis-a-Vis pens up on, no?
No, I missed out on that. But yeah, and the conclusions got better when we, as a class, took a look at examples and talked through, why is this a good example, or why isn't this a good example of writing a scientific conclusion. So in science, we do enough writing that I can connect easily with what Stefan has shared here.
Well, and I think like in science, like inquiry-based learning, right? Mm-hmm. Like developing scenarios. Like I use that a lot for PD because that's just a great way to learn, writing out step-by-step instructions. Like for math, you could have this like write out problems, but like math problems, but write them incorrectly for like error analysis. Because all that stuff we just did with ELA, you can do with math and science. You can just like most of these questions that we used to give students, you can plug them in to like here's these math problems I have to do, solve this for me. And you just take a picture of it on your phone, solve this for me, and explain to me how you got this so I can show my work. And I think that's cheating, right? Because that cheats them out of the learning process.
I think it goes back to what you already shared, Stefan, and that is it's about designing learning experiences, not products. We have to focus more on, it's not about getting a kid to write a 5-paragraph essay. It's about setting them up with learning experiences that helps them build the skills and knowledge in order to be able to do that if needed, which they may not ever need ever in their whole life, depending on what their future holds for them. Like how many of us sit around writing 5-paragraph essays? But you know how many I had to write coming up through school?
Yeah.
Good grief.
But you still use all those writing standards every single day, organizing your thoughts, revising your work, right? Producing some kind of content, whether it's email, social media, videos, audio, whatever. You use all that stuff. The 5-paragraph
not anymore.
essays.
I use ChatGPT.
There you go.
I do use ChatGPT, but I usually do my own writing first. And then I go to ChatGPT and be like, help me fix this.
Yeah.
Just clean this thing up for me.
Yeah.
I still have to reread it because sometimes ChatGPT uses words that I would never use. Like everybody would be like, oh yeah, this is ChatGPT, because Carrie would never say that.
Nice.
One where if we're thinking about like how this type of stuff can help instructional coaches, like this has been a game changer for me for brainstorming, for like just kind of being a thought partner, for not fact checking, but quality control checking my own work, for generating resources for professional development. The first thing that I do when I go to design a new PD is I plug a prompt into ChatGPT that's like, you're an expert in XYZ. You know the works of these 3 people. You're going to help me with blah, 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 blah. Ask me 5 questions about this topic to help me brainstorm. And like I can kick that around. And then inevitably at some point I come to you guys also, but I start with ChatGPT. That way I'm not taking up your valuable time. But when I need a human, I always involve another human in that process. And so like if I'm an instructional coach and I'm on an island, this is a good supplement to a lot of work that can be done.
Yeah, I love that idea. There was one more thing, maybe if I think we're wrapping this up. And I used to work with a colleague when I was in the classroom, and I just really appreciated her stance. She talked about we are aligned through our standards. And if we are all teaching students to the same standard, then it shouldn't matter what tools we're using to get students to reach mastery or proficiency in that particular standard. So she's like, no, our alignment's to our standards. If we are all teaching the standards, then it shouldn't matter what tools and what learning experiences we set up for students.
Well, the key of those common assessments, right? Like, because if I just go do whatever I want and like, yeah, my kids are learning, but there's not like a common way that we've agreed upon to measure whether or not our kids are meeting standard, then there's no accountability.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I'm with you. Thanks for learning with us today. If something we said sparked a thought, made you nod, or something Andy said made you roll your eyes, we'd love to hear about it. Share the episode, tag a colleague, send it to your PLC, or just keep the conversation going within your own team. You can connect with us via the feedback form in the show notes, and we'd love to hear your thoughts, feedback, and suggestions for topics to cover in future episodes. We're all growing together, and that starts with paying attention to our own practice.